Greetings, this is Doc Ock coming at you live and direct this evening from Black Facts Headquarters Central with another evening of storytelling. Yes, and maybe we'll even tell you about the smelling ghost tonight. Or maybe not. Maybe we'll just read some more stories about the feather woman of the jungle. Yes, because that story is starting to heat up some too. But meanwhile, let's do the needful. First and foremost, if you haven't already, go ahead and sign up for Tubular Black Facts on YouTube. The Tubular Black Facts channel on YouTube. Sign up. There's a button right there below. Hit it and quit it. Don't forget it. Meanwhile, let's do our proverb for the night. Proverb for the night is, Peacock hide him foot when him hear about him tail. Peacock hide him foot when him hear about him tail. Now I'll let you think about that one for a minute as to just what does that one mean. And that's a proverb, again, from the island of Jamaica. For the rest of the month, we'll be reading proverbs from the island of Jamaica. So we've got a lot of Jamaican isms to leave you with. A few isms and schisms. Meanwhile, let's carry on with our story from West Africa by Amos Tutuola about the feather woman of the jungle. The feather woman of the jungle. The feather woman of the jungle. Yeah, buddy. Let's see what we got to say. What he has to tell us about the feather woman of the jungle. There we go. All right. We got everything straightened out here. And we are ready to go with another image from our slideshow. Yes. New image from the slideshow. Now let's see. Hopefully this will be all good to go here. Yep. We're good. We're good. And let's see, where did we leave off on this story here? Yes. We were talking about the feather woman of the jungle and how she went. Here it goes here. I was turned into the image for 2 years by the witch of the jungle. Entertainment of the second night. Oh, and I see this thing is not working again. Let me try and fix it real quick here. See if I can just get it fixed up real quick. Looks like it should be playing right. Don't know why it doesn't want to play right. Let's see. Yep, there it goes now. Let's do this here and that over there. Okay, now we should be good. All the people of the village were gathered in front of my house and were served with palm wine. When they drank and danced and sang for a few minutes, then I continued to relate the last story of my first journey as follows. Immediately, we had returned to the hut in the jungle after we had put the empty baskets down and put the money that we had sold the cola nuts of that day in the usual pit. Then we cooked our food. As we were eating with our sister, Ashabi, she started to tell us the news of our father and mother and also the news of our village. She told us that our father and mother were still in their great poverty. But when she told us like that, we assured her that they would be no more in poverty as soon as we returned to them, because we had saved a lot of money. and she was happy to hear like that from us. Having finished with the food, we showed her that covered pit and warned her very seriously not to attempt to remove the cover of it or to see what was inside it. We explained to her furthermore that the jungle witch had warned us not to tamper with it. After that, we showed her the images. At the first instance, she thought that they were persons, but were pretended to be like that of images that moment when she stood before them. When it remained 6 days for us to leave for our village with all the monies that we had saved and also with several expensive dresses, etc., that we had bought, one morning after we had carried the cola nuts to the market, as we left the Xvii in the hut to prepare our food, but soon after we had left for the market, the jungle witch rose her usual changeling ostrich to the hut. Then she started to flog the images as usual. But as that was the first time that a Xvii saw her there, she was so much feared that she left the hut and came to us in the market. Having told us about her with throbbing heart, we did not waste time, but returned to the hut with her at the same time, but the old woman had gone anyway. Anyhow, we prepared our food, and afterwards, after we had eaten it, then we stood up and walked to the images just to see how they had been flogged that morning by the old woman. But as my junior brother, Xvii, and I were looking at the images and were praying to God to change them back to their former forms, we did not notice when the Xvii left us and went to that covered pit. She said loudly, "By the way, what kind of things are in this pit which are forbidden to a person to see?" And without hesitation, she removed the cover of it. When she saw 2 ostrich eggs in it, she took them out. But when we saw her did so, we hardly shouted greatly, put the eggs back into the pit," when Xvii and I were turned into the images unexpectedly. We were at the extreme right in the same line with the other images. Xvii did not believe her eyes at first when she did not see us anymore, but the 2 new images. When she looked around the hut and yet did not see us, but her alone, she was so puzzled that she became mad at the same time. After a while, she ran to us. She held us and was shaking us with all her power. And so she was calling our names loudly. Perhaps we might change back to our own forms, but nevertheless, we did not change at all. Having tried all her efforts, but all were in vain, then she stood before us. She was weeping continuously and was blaming herself that if she had known, she would not have removed the cover of the pit or to take the 2 eggs out of the pit. After a while, the darkness of the night came. Every part of the hut and the jungle was very dark. Very dark. Pitch black, as a matter of fact. Super black, so black you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face black. Now Xvii remained alone in the darkness. There was nobody with her, and that was another fear to her. Having wept bitterly for some hours before us, then she walked back to the hut. She sat and continued to weep sorrowfully in the darkness. But to our surprise, as we had already turned into the form of images, we were feeling whenever something touched us. We were hearing whenever somebody talked. But when we talked, people did not hear us. We were breathing in and out, but people could not see our breasts to move. We could see everything and think as when we had not changed into the images. Hardly in the following morning, when the jungle witch rode her usual ostrich to the hut, When she came down from it, she put one bunch of whips down before us, images. After her birds were perched on our heads and shoulders, she walked into the hut and met Ashabi in the corner as she was weeping bitterly. Then, without mercy, she asked from her, "Where are your two brothers? Where are they? Have they caught by my trap? Have they been caught by my trap?" But Ashabi, with tears rolling down her cheeks, pointed a finger to us and said, "Look, old mother, my two brothers had changed into images last night." Then the jungle witch turned her fearful eyes to us and hastily interrupted without mercy, "Oh, very good. I am very lucky indeed that my images are increased by two. Very good, very good. I know they could not keep my warnings." Having said like that, with gladness and great laughter, and Ashabi was looking at her with expectancy that she would change us back to our former forms, she left Ashabi in the hut and wobbled to us. She dragged the bunch of whips nearer. Then she took one whip and stood before us. Before she started to flog us, she said, "Yes, I had known that one day would be one day when both of you would be caught by my trap. And you've already been caught by it." Then, without mercy, she started to flog us one by one. Whenever one whip was worn out, she would take another one and then continued. Thus, she flogged us until the whole bunch of the whips were torn asunder into little itty bitty pieces. When Ashabi saw how mercilessly she was flogging us, she came to her. She knelt before her, and with tears, she started to beg her to change us back to our own forms. But the cruel jungle witch hastily said, "Not at all. No pardon in my jungle. I've never pardoned any offender in my life. It is a thing that I hate most to do. You, as the pleader, will soon be turned into an ostrich, and I will be riding you about, because this present one," she pointed the finger to that ostrich, "is getting old and weary, and it's about time for me to get a new one, and you gonna be it." After she had explained to Ashabi like that, she mounted her ostrich back and was singing loudly as she was riding it along on her usual narrow path, which went deeply into the jungle, and all her birds were following her as well. We wept for severe pains when she was flogging us. We attempted to run away for our lives, but we could not move, not one bit. After she had gone away, then Ashabi returned to the hut. She cast down with sorrow and was looking at us several times in one moment. Perhaps we would change back to our former forms, but all her hope was in vain. Within a few days that we had changed into the images, and that the feather woman or jungle witch had started to flog us severely every morning. Ashabi was so lean that her bones appeared on every part of her body. She was always lonely and cast down in the corner of the hut. But as the jungle witch had said before she had left that morning, that she would change Ashabi into the form of an ostrich when she came back to flog us in the following morning, so Ashabi feared of that, attempted to leave us and escape to our village. But of course, after she had traveled a short distance away from the hut, she came back and sat down in the hut as usual when she remembered us. She was unable to leave us. She hardly sat in the corner when one old man entered the hut at about 1 o'clock that night. That old man was entirely bent down with old age. He was walking with a long, thick stick. The stick was sparkling as if it was polished every moment. Immediately he entered the hut. He crawled to one long stool which was before the hearth. He leaned his walking stick on the floor nearly to touch the hearth, but with great fear, Xvii hastily stopped weeping immediately when she saw the old man crawling towards the hearth. After he had been seated well on the stool, he started to gather pieces of sticks into the hearth. Having done that, he put big firewood on those dried sticks. After that, he took small stones from his native cap on his head. He held each of the stones in each hand, and then he started to strike one on the other until several hot sparks of the stones ignited the dried pieces of the sticks, and after a while it became a huge fire. In a few minutes more, the fire became a big flame and shone to every part of the hut, and then he started to warm his body. I was seeing him as he was doing all these things, although we were in the form of images. Through the flame, we saw him clearly that he had one leg. The other one had been cut off from a long time ago. As he was sniveling, it was so that he was sneezing and snorting continuously. As he was still doing like that, the wooden pillar on which he leaned, as he was enjoying the heat of the fire, broke. And again, the four legs of the stool on which he sat broke. And then he was falling along onto the hearth. But that was a great funny thing to us, because as he was just trying to save himself from the fire, a large piece of soot fell on his head from the dirty ceiling, and it caught fire unexpectedly. But as soon as he stood up, suddenly forgetting that he only had one leg, the fire was burning on his head. Excuse me. So painfully that he did not remember to take his walking stick to support himself. And as he was shouting loudly for help, he staggered to the corner in which Xvii cast down, and then he fell on her suddenly without knowing that anybody was there. He was so feared that he staggered to another corner and fell down again when he heard the voice of Xvii unexpectedly. And we'll leave off right there. To be continued tomorrow evening. More of the story of the Feather Woman of the Jungle by Amos Tutuola. Amos Tutuola, one of Africa's most famous writers, certainly one of the most famous Nigerian writers. First African author to become famous as a novelist. So ahead of his time in that respect. And I've read a couple of his books, and this is one. Either I haven't read it or I might have read it a long time ago and I just forgot it. But The Feather Woman of the Jungle, we're going to read it and see what we remember when we're all done. See what really stood out to us. In the meanwhile, all you little children out there know what time it is. Don't make me have to up and give you one of my quizzes. Go ahead, be a whiz without a quiz. Just go ahead and lay your little head on your little pillow, on your little bed, while you close those your eyes and wait on that sun to rise. And when you feel those sunbeams beaming down on your eyes, you'll know that it's time for you to rise and shine, oh children of mine. And in the meantime, all you adults out there need to go ahead and subscribe to the Black Facts, the Tubular Black Facts channel right here on YouTube. Don't be a boob. Sign up for the Tubular Black Facts channel on YouTube. Peace out without a doubt. Let me just give a shout out to Dr. Kwalim Kawi. Dr. Kawi. Don't I know a Kawi? Seem like I know a Kawi. Give me a holler, Kawi, when you get a chance. And Imani Zaire. And who else is over there? Ah, yeah. Moshe Mylon Sr. And in the meanwhile, we're going to go ahead and go to our extra. Peace out without a doubt, with plenty of justice thrown in, because anything less disgusts us.